All right. So starting from seated and maybe even taking a little time to move it around a little bit, figure out where your center is tonight, where you feel nice and tall through the middle of the body, through that central column. Feeling that structure, feeling that stability that really rises up from the ground to the crown of your head. And then at the same time, that ability to soften and relax. So maybe thinking first of the surface of your body across your skin and some of the peripheral parts of your body, your fingers, your toes. So being able to relax, even though you're sitting up nice and tall. And give yourself a few moments to arrive, to check in with how you're feeling this evening. Check in with your breath. And connecting to your breath with your hands, we'll take both hands down to the belly, pretty low down by your navel or a little lower. And feel the breath moving into that space, filling up your hands. So when you inhale, the belly expands. And when you exhale, the belly contracts a little bit, or it feels like it's being drawn in a little bit or softening in. So again, that inhale is expanding, getting bigger into your hands. Exhale, releasing the breath out, feeling that space contract. And then bring your hands to the chest so that your fingers might be near your collarbones. And feel the breath moving into the chest. Feeling the inhale expand, the hands will lift a little bit. And the exhale maybe feels more like they're lowering down into the body. And notice when you focus your breath higher up in the chest, can you still bring the breath deep into the belly? So it kind of starts low, but then you feel it rise up into the hands so that we're not skipping that belly breath. It's still coming down low. And then we'll take your hands down to the sides, kind of by the lower ribs, where the ribs start to come apart from each other down below. So finding somewhere on the side of your body and feeling the breath there. Sometimes this part is a little more elusive or we just don't think of it. So connecting into that where it's a little more of this outward feeling of the breath coming in. And when you breathe out, then it feels like the ribs could almost squeeze inward a little bit. A few breaths, really noticing that middle space. Coming out wide and contracting back in. Still a little bit of awareness low in the belly, a little bit up high in the chest, and then coming out through the sides. And then you can relax your hands anywhere. We'll continue those deep, full breaths, and we'll begin our intention for the world, our global intention. I've been starting all of our online practices this way. So begin to think of something, anything that you would like to put out into the world, something positive, a feeling, an idea, a concept. something that might speak to you. Maybe it's something you personally would like to cultivate or get a little more of, whether that's feeling calm, feeling peaceful, feeling bright, feeling joyful, feeling well rested, or just well in general. Whatever your intention is, start to say it to yourself, feel it as you say it as you breathe it, starting to connect that idea to your breath. Feel it as you inhale, sense it as you exhale. And then even strengthening that thought a little more, we'll put it into this idea of light. So if you can visualize that positive feeling as light, and that light just filling up your body, feeling that positive thought. And whether you sense that as though your cells were starting to get illuminated, or maybe it's more like the sun is beaming in on you. However you need to feel that light, imagine it. Continue to breathe with that feeling. And then we'll start to expand it outward. So in another breath, just feeling it move to the surface of your body and start to come around yourself, glowing in that light. Another breath, and it moves out into the whole room where you are. And then another breath, filling that light into the whole building where you are. And then it really starts to move, pushing that light out of the building, down your street, into your neighborhood or the countryside. Another breath, and it can cross your whole county or your city. And beginning to let that light spread into your state, into the region where you are, and across the country, across the continent. And as you feel that light going outward, it might start to connect to specific places, people you know, or places you know. So it starts to wed, as all of us have those intersecting lines of light, and it just keeps going across the oceans and around the whole world. Eventually, just visualizing, imagine the whole globe surrounded in that light. The light is positive, and it covers everything like another layer in the atmosphere. And each breath that you take, focusing in that light that surrounds the world, that positive thoughts going out to everybody, every creature. And we'll take a breath here to kind of seal in that intention around the world. Take a deep breath in. And let the whole breath out. And bring your attention back inward. Draw it all the way back to your own body sitting there. Bring your hands together at your heart. And we'll take another breath together. A deep breath in. Slow breath out. All right, from here we're going to go down onto your back. You can lay down on the floor. I mentioned we are going to spend a little more time with the back tonight, and sometimes even just sitting there for however many minutes we're sitting there already starts to wear out the back. So really nice to just be able to lay down, take a moment to be intentional about your posture on the floor. Line it up so you're even down left and right sides. Your hips are more or less level. Shoulders can start to draw down a little bit. Maybe your arms rest outward a little bit. And then even your neck and your head coming into line, finding that center. And you can start in constructive rest. So your knees are going to be bent upright and your feet flat on the floor. Just checking in here. Let your body soften into the ground and maybe continue to feel that idea of light that surrounded the world coming across the surface of the world to the ground where you are. Let yourself melt into that light. And we'll begin with some movement down near the tailbone, some cat-cow tilts on your back. So when your tailbone points to the ground, it should give a curve to the lumbar spine, a bigger curve, exaggerate it. And then as you reverse that, we're coming towards a flat back, trying to bring the small of your back to the ground or as close as you can get it. And so you can use this with your breath, where your inhale comes into the arched position and the exhale goes towards the flat position. So you can take really long, slow breaths so that the movement is also long and slow, teasing apart little stiff spots that get stuck together along those lower segments of your spine. Sitting down into that pelvic bowl where we get into the sacrum and down into the tailbone, just kind of oozing around all those spaces. And you should feel that movement up and down the center of your spine. And then we're going to shift it, maybe about an inch to the right. So you're still parallel now to the spine, just a little bit to the right. Continuing that same sort of movement, still finding an arch with the inhale, flatter back with the exhale. And you can start to kind of zigzag yourself over back through center and eventually over to the left, just about an inch or so to the left of your spine, continuing that same arcing and flattening motion. And again, we inhale towards the arched spine, exhale towards the flat back. And then again, we'll come towards the middle, centering it again. And then eventually come to pause. Pause at a neutral spine. So you're somewhere in the middle, not in a big arch, but you're also not trying to go flat. There's just a natural curve coming up through the spine. And then once again, we'll bring in movement. This time it'll be more side to side. So our windshield wiper legs, you might take a little wider stance with your feet for this one, but knees are still bent. And then they start to travel side to side so the knees follow each other across. And it's pretty slow. I like to use the inhale just to come up to the center and the exhale to lower down to one side. So the next inhale is again rising. The exhale coming down and across. And of course, you might feel this anywhere else. Maybe it's coming into your hips, down to your knees, maybe into your feet. And perhaps you can feel it more into the low back and the pelvis as it tilts side to side. Maybe even you feel it a little further up the back, coming up towards your arms, towards your shoulders, if that's where you're tight. Feel free to lean into it a little bit. So when you get to the edge, you kind of push yourself a little further. Maybe your arm even kind of gets dragged along with you a little bit from behind you. before reversing and coming to that second side. Just waiting till you get all the way to the side and then maybe just a little bit more push. And then another variation I really like is when your knees come up through the middle, try to press down through the low back. So coming back towards the flattened part of the arch and flatten, but just as your knees come through the middle, and then you can just let your weight travel across the side. So it's a little hybrid movement, which can help in decompressing some of that tightness that lingers down in the lumbar spine. And then finally, when your knees travel over to the right, the next time they're on your right, let's let them stay there a little bit longer. Pause there. Check in. Where can you relax? Can you let your breath assist in that relaxation? Like the inhale just fills up any part of the body that's got a little more space. Through your ribs, through your belly, through your waist, down towards your hip. The exhale kind of softens that space, let it melt, let it sink. And give it another breath over here, big full breath in. Long, slow breath out. And we'll bring it around the other way, just easing it up and over. Let your knees travel to the left. Let them stay over there. Find a spot where they can relax. And take all the effort out of the pose. So that is just the breath moving in and out. Perhaps feeling it a little more on that right side body this time. What else can relax in another deep breath? And letting go of that breath. And we'll come out of that side. You can bring your knees back up through the middle. When you get there, let's take the knees in towards your belly. Bring your hands up around your knees and give yourself a little sway side to side. And sometimes I even think of it as kind of like nudging the lower parts of your back further away from you as you do that, like you're getting a little more length down the back side. And then we'll start to guide the knees around in a circle. So you can move them with your hands as big of a circle as your back allows, without feeling strain, without feeling like you're losing the support or the control. And let that circle imprint around on the floor so you feel it across your back. And we'll turn that around the second direction. A few more big slow circles. And then we're going to try to recreate that feeling across the back, but with your feet on the floor. And if for any reason this doesn't feel good tonight, just keep your knees in close. Continue that same movement we were just doing. Otherwise, feet flat on the floor, knees are bent upright. And guiding that circle around, it'll be a little lower. So sometimes they're called sacral circles. We go around the sacrum. Seated in the pelvis, should kind of pass through the low back, around to each hip, and down towards the tailbone. And this often will call on some more deep core muscles to help guide that circle, and sometimes when the body's not used to it, it's like a really jagged circle. So what we're trying to do is smooth it out, make it as round as you can by going as slow as you can. Really taking your time to push into some of those corners of the circle, corners of your back. And this one too will take the other direction. So whenever you're ready, turn it around the other way. Again, real slow and steady. Sometimes these are also called sacral clocks. So you might even visualize a clock face on the floor and you're trying to get every number on that clock as your weight shifts around it. And then eventually arriving at the center of that clock or back at neutral and just pausing there for a few breaths. All these movements, the sacral circles, the cat-cow tilts, the windshield wiper are really great for creating stability in some of those muscles, those deeper core muscles, but also mobility, kind of easing out into those stiff spots that get stuck in the back. It's time to get off the back now. So when you're ready, we'll find our way up and over to all fours. You can roll up or you can roll over and then come up. However you want to get there. We'll come right onto hands and knees, right into some cats and cows. So when you're ready, you can line yourself up, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, and really ground into whatever is on the ground. So all the fingertips, the thumbs, pads of your palms, your knees, your feet, everything compressed so there's a little more structure. When you're ready, full cats and cows, that big rounded back cat, and then belly comes down, chin and tailbone lift into cow. And this is also with the breath, so the exhale can round yourself into cat, and the inhale comes down into cow. And so really just continuing that movement that we started with, feeling it come a little bit further up the back, through the mid back, upper back, even your neck and head come along. And then just a little bit more focus in a couple spots as we go through. So when you come into cat, just stay there a little bit longer. The next time you're rounded out, let your head sink down. And focus in lengthening that lower spine. Tailbone draws down, opening up the lumbar vertebrae, pushing back in that direction. And then shifting into your cow, so the belly starts to sink down, the chest lifts, the chin lifts. Sometimes if we focus too much on the low back in cow, it gets really tight and compressed. So you can always back off a little bit in the low back and bring a more emphasis to the upper back. So really squeezing shoulder blades, pulling forward to the collarbones, and getting a little bit more of that upper spine. And then let's go back and forth a few more times just with that awareness, that oscillation going from the low back in your cat pose, and shifting it into the upper back in cow pose. Few more rounds. And then we'll find our way to neutral spine. Just pausing for a moment, trying to line everything up. So you're neither hunched over or swaying down. Finding the middle, finding that strong center line. And again, include the neck, include the head, bring it all into line. And from here, we're going to take child's pose, and we're going to take a few variations of child's pose tonight. So I'm going to guide them specifically, but if you need something a little different that's more comfortable for you, take what you need. The first one will have the big toes towards each other behind you and your knees wide near the edges of your mat or about 2 feet apart. And then letting your hips sink back, letting your head come down either to the floor, to your hands, or to a pillow, whatever your head can rest on. And feel free to let your forehead rest all the way down so that your head is centered. And just give yourself a few moments to settle into that pose. Sometimes this pose is thought to be really relaxing, really decompressing for the spine. But on some days, it's a lot. It can be deep in the hips. It can cause a little extra strain on the knees, even on your feet. So really taking care, checking in with your body and letting it be as comfortable as possible. Bringing that awareness back into the breath. We kind of felt it on the front side of the body at the very beginning of our practice. So now shift some of that awareness to the back side of the body, like you're breathing into the low back, the mid back, and the upper back. Feeling that space expand out behind you where there is more space to breathe into. And still that idea of softening with the exhale, letting your body melt in. We'll give it another deep breath, full inhale, and full exhale. And then from here, you can find your way on up to hands and knees. We'll actually be going right into a lunge. And let's start with your left foot in front. So you can help your left foot forward. We're going to come right up onto that thigh. So you can bring your body onto your leg. And just make sure you've got a good amount of space between your front and back legs. So if you're really short stanced, it's usually tippy and we don't really get into the hips. But if you can lengthen it out, you can let your hips sink forward with you and still have a nice strong foot underneath your knee. If you want to feel grounded and balanced, a little bit of work by pressing down into the feet and the knee. You can bring your hands onto your leg and use your arms to help lift your body up a little bit taller. And just being mindful as you do that, being careful of the low back. Think of the tailbone drawing downward a little bit to release any over compression of that lumbar spine. And as you come up, then see if the hips might be able to sink just a little bit further forward, even if it's just an inch further forward. We'll just give that one more breath. And we'll be coming right down, hands to the floor. You can tuck your toes under behind you, lift off that knee and stretch into a lunge. So pushing back into the heel, stretching your calf, feeling the thigh lift up. We'll give it another deep breath. And then we're going to swivel. So you can walk your hands towards your right. We're coming into a wide-legged fold. So however you need to get there, your toes turn to face the long edge of your mat. And then folding yourself down between your legs. Arms can just rest wherever. Let your head sink down, maybe give it a little turn side to side. Shrug at the shoulders. Standing forward folds are really decompressing for the spine as well. You're a little bit upside down with the upper body. So think of the weight of your head of being that anchor, lengthening your neck and any other part of your spine that will come along, dripping down towards the floor. We'll start to walk your fingertips over towards your left. Walking your hands to the left towards your foot or wherever you can reach. A little more emphasis with the right fingers, doing the reaching. So you feel that reach through the right arm up into the side of your back and maybe even all the way up towards your hip. And then we'll just take that around the other way. So you can walk your hands towards your right. Side stretch with the left hand reaching across. Left side gets a little longer. Breathe into the left waist, into the side, into the back. And then you can come back through to center. And pause there at the middle. Loosen again. And we'll be walking your hands back towards the front of your mat, towards that lunge, so you can swivel back to the left. And we'll just be stepping back through. You can come through to downward facing dog, to child's pose, or through a cat and cow. So whatever you need for the next couple breaths, guide your body into any posture. And then we'll be coming into that lunge on the second side. So you can help your right foot forward, bring it towards the front of your mat. Again, finding your way right up onto your thigh, figuring out where you feel steady enough, where you've got a long enough stance, where you can start to bring your hips forward. And again, that whole front foot is flat on the floor. So again, if it's too short, usually the heel starts to peel off. And if it's further enough forward, you can start to ground in. So add a little grounding, push through the heel, through the knee, through the foot behind you. And from that push down, lift up. So you can press your hands to the thigh, lift the heart, draw the tailbone downward a little bit, a little more support and stability from the deep core. And then again, maybe just a little further forward with the hips. Just another deep breath in and release. We'll come down again with the hands, but come up with the knee behind you. So you can tuck your toes under, lengthen that leg, push back through the heel, feel it as a stretch through that back leg. And then we'll be shifting to that wide-legged fold again. You're facing the left. So you can pivot on your feet. Move yourself around so you're again centered down between your legs. Even out your feet so there's a nice balanced grounding through each foot. Initially just getting to that center place. Soften the shoulders, the neck, the head. All right, again, we're going to walk your hands towards, let's go to the right first this time. It starts as a side reach like last time. But this time we're going to bend the right knee. So you can start to sink your weight over to the right. So my right knee is bent, the left leg is straight. A little more stretch down that inner leg on the left. Sinking down into that hip. And then keeping your hands where they are, we'll start to straighten the left leg again. So coming back to even legs and more of that stretch of the upper body. Just back and forth a few times. You can bend deep into the right knee. And then again, center. Again to the right, sinking down. And then back up. And one more time, drop down into the right and lengthen your hips. your leg back up to the middle. Then we'll walk the hands through the middle and over to the left. From that side stretch, sinking down into the bend of your left knee, right leg stays straight. Sinking down for an extra breath or two initially, and then more of that flow. So you can begin to straighten, feel your hips lift up to the middle, and then again, drop down to the left. As always, feel free to move with your breath, straightening that leg for one part of your breath, bending it for the other. Let that be intuitive. And then we'll be coming back through to center once again. Find the middle, relax down through it. And you can find your way back over to the right again, just to find that lunge. We're just transitioning on back through. Again, take what you need in the next few breaths. Cats and cows, downward dog, or right into child's pose. We'll all be meeting in a child's pose, another version. So we're going to have the big toes together again, but also the knees together. So as close as you can get with your legs towards center. And then as you bring your body down, we're going towards having the head on the floor and the arms back behind you. So it's kind of more like being closed into a little ball. If your head doesn't reach the floor, this could be a spot where you have that pillow underneath your head, or maybe your hips are just going to be a little bit higher up to let your head sink down. Also, usually your forehead isn't going to be on the floor. Maybe it's more towards the top of your forehead or even the top of your head. A little bit more of a rounded back, like cat. And again, that focus on breathing into the back side. Feel the breath move out through the low back, through the mid back, through the upper back. And then from here, we're going to move all the way down onto your belly. So you can come to the flat ground. And initially, just make a little pillow for your head. Let your body rest. Let it flatten out. Maybe give the legs a little wobble side to side and then relax. And now bring your awareness back to the front side of your body, breathing. And feel it against the floor underneath you. Fill up the belly, fill up your chest, fill up everything in between. Expanding against the ground. And as you exhale, we're softening into the ground. And try not to cut the exhale short. Really be patient for it to go all the way out. And if one side of your head is resting, go ahead and switch it over to the other side just for an even position for your neck. And with your chin or forehead back at center, we're going to set your hands down at your sides, preparing for some cobra poses, where your fingers point straight ahead, your elbows hug straight back, and your toes point straight back. And so with our cobra, we're just going to take little lifts. So you can lift chest, chin, barely even use the arms. So your hands are just placeholders. So as you lift, you push down through your feet and feel some of that engagement come up through the legs to the back. So we're just going to lift and lower cobra a few rounds. Your inhale can be cobra. The exhale will come down. Feeling that work in the upper back like cow. Squeeze the shoulder blades, lift the heart. Of course, be mindful of the low back, trying not to pinch through those areas of your back. And go ahead, take one more lift and lower. And pause for a moment on the floor, let everything relax. And then we're going to move this a little more side to side. So we'll start towards your right. If you push a little more into the right hand, peek over to the right, turn your head, and lift the right shoulder a little more than the left side. And then we'll just sweep down and through and go to the left. Push to the left hand, look left, and come back down and through. So your inhale can continue to lift. The exhale lowers. And feel free to take that as high as your body wants you to go. So you may be able to start straightening that arm that you're looking towards a little bit more. If it doesn't work in your back today, then just stay low. And then we'll be finding our way back through to center, one or two more, whatever you need to feel evened out. And when you get there, pause for a moment, hands rest under your head again. Relax all the way down your back, all the way down from your glutes to your feet. The whole body rests. You can give yourself another breath or so down on the floor. We'll be moving into one more child's pose. This variation is sometimes called melting heart or kind of like a puppy pose. So your hips will stay above your knees instead of sinking backwards. And then we're going down to wherever you can go. Maybe it's your elbows. Maybe you can get your head to your hands. Maybe it reaches the floor. And it's a little bit more of this upper back bend. So think of the chest sinking down. And that's where the melting heart comes in. And the upper back is in that extended position. Again, try not to force it. It can be really tight, so feel free to start with it a little higher and let that be where you are today. Take another full breath. Stay for your exhale. And then begin to find your way on up. One more time, hands and knees. One more time, your cat-cow movement. And then we'll be finding our way to seated. And again, you can sit any way that works. That feels balanced, that feels grounded and centered. Let's come off the wrists for a minute. Just some wrist circles. Moving your hands around each other or separate from each other. Taking that both directions. And then we'll sweep the arms up overhead. Take a deep breath in. And bring the arms out into cactus shape, exhaling them out wide. Then squeeze your elbows backwards. Take an inhale. We'll bring the arms together out in front with the exhale. Again, reach up tall. We'll inhale, come up high. And go wide with the exhale. Inhale, squeezing the upper back. Exhale, coming through to center. One more time, reaching up. Coming out wide. Squeezing back. And this time coming together, we'll take the left arm underneath the right, hooking around the elbows. Eagle arms. Hands can be up high or they could be low, but elbows lift. And then guide your elbows over to the left. A little twist, focusing in that mid to upper back space. Not worrying about twisting any lower than that. And we'll continue to twist left, but undo the arms. So your right hand will come across and the left arm comes behind you. You might be able to steer yourself just a little bit further into that twist. You can take your chin all the way across to the left. And then see if it feels okay to start sinking your chin down towards your collar. Just slowly roll the weight of your head towards your chest. And with your head sunk down through the center, see if your twist unwound a little bit. Retwist it. And then come to the middle. We'll unwind that whole thing. Start just a little bit more back at those arm movements. Big sweep up with the inhale. Elbows come wide with the exhale. Squeeze it back, inhale. Bring the arms together out in front, exhale. Again, reach up, inhale. Coming out wide, exhale. Squeezing back, breathe in. And coming forward, breathe out. Last set, inhale up. Exhale out. Inhale backwards. Exhale forward, this time right arm under left. That eagle arm reach again to come up through the hands or stay low, but the elbows come up. We'll start with our twist to the right with those eagle arms guiding across. And a little more focus in that shoulder space and how it connects onto the upper back. Moving that upper back into the twist. And then bringing your arms into that twist as well. So you can bring your left hand across and your right hand behind, maybe lifting a little taller, squeezing a little deeper. Chin comes all the way across to the right. And again, just that slow release of the chin, the head coming down. Easy does it. And when you get to center, again, just pause for a moment, maybe twisting the base of your twist a little bit further. And then we'll release. Come back to center. When you get to the middle, you can let your legs out long. You can give them a little shake. We'll just pause for a moment in staff pose. So hands will be down at your sides. Shoulders come down with you. Push out long through your legs, down through your heels, up through your toes. Find center. Take a deep breath here. And let it go. And then from here, we'll be finding our way to your back again. And this is where you might want that pillow or cushion within reach. I've got a big couch cushion with me. That's what I got. But find your way onto the floor. Again, pause in that constructive rest position and take a moment to really find it, to center it, to balance it, to let the ground hold you up again. All right, so we're going to bring the knees in towards your belly and give them another little hug like we did earlier. And we'll start a little sway side to side like we did earlier. A little more focus on the side, each side. So kind of going as far as you can without rolling onto the ground. See how far you can go and then come back through the middle. Try that a few rounds, side to side. If you can, try to squeeze your legs together to touch. They might not be able to stay touching. That's okay. And then we'll take the arms out wide to the floor, ground them down, and continue that movement of the legs. So working into more of a twist. Still seeing how far you can go over to one side without feeling strain in your back or your hips or your shoulders for that matter. Try to stay stable. And you can still try to keep your legs glued together or keeping them as close to each other as you can get them. All right, so now we're going to go into a more passive twist. So the next time your knees go to the right, we're going to let them come all the way down. Now they might not go all the way down, and that's where a pillow can be really nice to keep them a little bit elevated. Ideally, you've got your shoulders, your upper back, both arms, all the way flat to the floor. So if that left arm is starting to lift behind you and the shoulder can't relax, it's a really good place to have the legs elevated on that right side. Another spot you might go is have a pillow between the legs. Sometimes helps give a little more support to the back, like you might sleep that way with a spacer between your knees. You can figure out however this pose needs to be for you to be able to relax into it. If you have to move your legs somewhere else, do it. Find a spot where you can breathe. Where each breath eases you a little deeper into the pose. And a little deeper into that relaxed state. Remember to be patient for your breath. Slowly let it fill you all the way up. From those lower segments of your belly, your waist, your back, all the way up through the rib cage, through the chest, through the collarbones, through the upper back, the shoulders. Use that whole space. And likewise, let that whole space relax when you let your breath out. Give yourself another breath on this first side. Again, whatever can relax, let it go. I'll be shifting to the second side. When you're ready, it's easy does it. You can bring your cushion or your pillow with you. Set it over on the other side. However you need to set it up on that side. Your knees go to the left. Again, it can be elevated on something or not, or you can put something between your legs. Nothing hovering, especially the legs, but also, again, that shoulder across from your legs. So if that right arm, right side of your back is starting to get pulled up, can you nestle it back down? Find a place to be relaxed. It's So the whole body is feeling like it's spreading out across the floor. And then once again, it's just the breath. Let the breath be the pose. Your body is just wherever it is, but your breath is moving deeply, fully. Long, slow, expansive inhales. And those exhales that just ease out, all the way out, drifting into the very end of the breath. Staying here, another full breath. As you're ready, ease yourself back through to center. Set yourself up again at center. Take that whole twist out. Realign your spine. Check in at constructive rest. Does your body need anything else to recenter, especially after those twists? So maybe it's a bridge, maybe it's a little cat-cow tilt, maybe it's knees to chest, or just a big full stretch through the body. Give yourself whatever it is you need in the next few breaths. And then we'll be moving into our final relaxation when you're ready. Setting yourself up so that you are comfortable. No matter what that means at this moment. Get comfortable, get centered, get settled. When your body is set up in that place where it can really relax, that's when you can start to let yourself float. And perhaps first it's just imagining your body itself is floating on the surface of some water. Even connecting your breath to that feeling of water rising and falling in that rhythm. And as you float on your breath, sometimes your mind can come along for that ride, drift with you to a quiet place. Let yourself rest there. Bringing some attention back to your breath. Come back to your body, breathing. And begin to sense all the way down through your limbs, out into your hands, down to your feet. You can begin to move fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. And then feel free to take a stretch out in any direction, reaching tall or long or wide. And then as you're ready, gather it in, help your knees back up. And when you're ready, take it over onto either side. Just curled up for a moment on your side. See if you can let everything go again, even though it's just a few seconds. And then you can help your way on up to sit. You can take as much time as you need to get here, to stack your spine upright, to center, and then to relax again. Let everything go. And connecting back to that intention from the beginning of practice, or even just that feeling of light, bringing it back to the breath. You can bring your hands to your heart. We'll close with 3 breaths together. Take a deep breath in. And let a slow breath out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Namaste.